G'day, I thought I'd just run you through the job that I hate the most. Basically, there is a little rubber block like this guy. It's basically the end stop for the gimbal that sits inside its throat. And on this one, you probably can't quite see it. On this one, it's actually melted. Sometimes just the end of it melts, in which case you don't need to disassemble the whole drone. You can just take the cover off and you might be able to ply it out and replace it. So if you can get in behind here, it sticks out on both sides because it's sitting basically like that. It sits basically like that, but up here, and you can push on these guys and it'll actually come out. But if the whole thing's melted, that's not going to work, and you have to disassemble it to clean it as well. You can't just stick a new one in. It is a bit of a bugger of a job. It takes a bit of time, as long as you just, take it easy and just do it one step at a time. Everything's fine. One of the things you need to do is remove the main board to be able to get to all the screws to remove the gimbal assembly. The problem with that, straight up, is that you need to remove the landing gear and the motherboard. One because of the other. You need to be able to... Why doesn't that fit? I thought they were the same. Well, there you go. We're all learning. I don't know which one it is. We'll find it. So, because you need to remove the motherboard, you need to remove the landing gear so that you can disconnect all the wires coming from the motor. Otherwise you can't remove the board, and you need to remove the board because two of the screws which hold the gimbal assembly in on the sprung bases just aren't accessible, which is a real pain. You have to actually, you basically pull the whole thing apart. The only thing you don't take out is the comms board underneath, pretty much. Righto, so landing gear just pops off. Come on, landing gear. There we go, it just kind of clips off. Be careful of the cable underneath. So there's a cable underneath, which is for, I think it's compass and accelerometer are inside the legs. So, if your compass is continually playing up, you can look to swap your legs, as it'll have a new compass in it. Okay, then we just need to pull all these wires out, which can be fun. You just need to press on the plug's connector and lift up. What you find is these generally come off fairly easily, so don't be surprised if you lose a couple of those. They're not very strong. They're not paper, but they're not, not overly awesome. Righto, come on you. That's number 3. Yeah, see, that one's broken already and we didn't even touch it. Just be wary of that cable as well floating around. You don't want to damage that. That also has to come through as well when we remove that main board. Righto, so top shell off. And now we want to remove this board. We also need to remove all the connectors, unfortunately. So you just need to be careful. I also did the pairing fix on this one, so there's no glue on that connector. These others will have glue on them, but it should be able to remove it fairly easily. And pop the connectors up. Just be careful of these, especially with the glue on them. You don't want to pull on them too hard, because you can end up tearing the connector. Okay. So this guy up here, this guy goes down to the comms board underneath. It's got like your Bluetooth and Wi-Fi and all that sort of stuff, the aerials for that. And this actually goes to the gimbal, this one. Yeah, this guy never wants to come up easy. So you can see there's like the adhesive that they use to hold it down. You just need to kind of break the seal on it, and then you're going to be good. Right, let's just, come on you. And he's out. Okay, righto. Righto, now we just need to do the 6 mainboard screws, the washer and the vibration dampener, the little see-through rubber. Come on. Oh, these ones are really on there. A little bit of sand inside this one, so it's obviously been down near the beach or something. You tend to find that any of them that have been near a beach, or just sand in general, the sand tends to stick to, I don't know whether you can see it or not, to the rubbers. Righto, last one, and then we just need to do the power board. Which I believe is this guy. And then this board will be ready to come out. We just want to be careful of that cable that goes down to the compass and accelerometer board. Righto. And then you just need to lift it off little rubbers and just slide that through. Board's out. Okay, we're making some progress. Righto. Now we need to remove the chassis, because the screws we want to get to are actually underneath. Remember how I was saying there's the spring screws for the gimbal? So here's one set of springs, but there's also another set under here. You can disconnect this from here by removing these 3 screws, and this will disconnect this one, but you can't disconnect the other one, which means you just can't pull it out. So unfortunately you have to pull the entire chassis out. I think technically it's a battery compartment, so I'm going to stick those up in there. And I've only got to knock off these 2 at the front of the gimbal as well. Okay, so come on you. Oh, sorry. 2 more down inside here. And one on this side. Righto, we can lift that out, we can move this aside. Don't need that anymore. So, if we flip it over, you'll see we've got these 2 screws here, and that's what's holding these springs in. Because of that, yeah, that won't come out. Just take note that there's no screws in these holes. Those screws are actually those 2, the last 2 that I took out, and they actually attach it to posts in the chassis. If you put those in before you install this back in, you'll find it sits a little bit high and you can't put the cover on properly, which is, yeah, quite annoying. So let's remove this cross brace. And there's our spring assembly. Righto. So what we want to do now is disconnect these three. Come on, you two. I can now remove the spring assembly. Leave those screws in it, and this will now just slide out. I will leave the springs in the cage for now. Okay, we're doing all right. Now we can get a little bit of a better look at this. I wish I had a bit more light. Let's see, where's the torch? Oh, the other thing you'll notice is you'll get black on your hands like this, and that's just from, I accidentally just touched up in there. You can see it's all like molten and melted. And yeah, I'm starting to put fingerprints all over the place. Yeah, a bit more there. So like I said before, it depends how melted it is as to how much work it's actually going to be. I generally use isopropyl alcohol to clean them, because it does a pretty good job at it. So what we need to do, I think I'm going to fully disassemble this one, because that one is done. Yep, this one's coming fully apart. So I'm going to disconnect the back bit. The majority of screws in this unit are the same. So I can now lift the back plate off. This is going to make it so much easier to clean. Yeah, so you can see it's sitting on the top of here as well. This will just be so much easier to clean once I pull it all apart. Because otherwise it's, yeah, just a nightmare. You can't clean it properly, and there's always going to be some of that melted component floating around in there. Like, you see how bad that is. This can take a little bit. So I'll often use Q-tips or whatever you want to call them. Yeah, look at that. That's horrific. One thing you can do is cut them in half. You can actually use the shaft to kind of get like right in there and get a lot of that out in both spots. Look at that. That's going straight in the bin. Not even going to consider putting that down on the bench, because I know what's going to happen. Yeah, once I get the majority of it off, I'll get the toothbrush in there with some isopropyl alcohol on it, and I will clean the rest up. The reason why I'm not doing it now is because there's just so much there. I'm just going to end up pushing it all over the place, and it's not actually going to clean it. I'm just going to smear it everywhere, because it will travel. Righto, so let's take this end off. This, I'm going to put it politely, This really sucks. You normally need to start at one end and just work your way along. So what I want to do is I want to get this one, so this is clipped over this guy here. So I want to lift this guy over that and slightly angle it off, and then I'll move to the next one and the next one and the next one. See, I got that at a little bit of an angle. If I jam that in there, that'll hold it there while I work my way along and get each one off. What you need to be careful of is to make sure that it doesn't then slip backwards. That one's good. I think I'm up to this guy. Yep. Come on. There we go. Okay, so now I'm much closer in, so it makes it a bit easier to clean. I'll get there's some scissors. Now I can get right down into that gap and clean out more of that muck, because yeah, it's thick as mud. Okay, so I've just dipped my rag into the isopropyl alcohol, and before it all evaporates, because it's 99%, I'm going to get that down in there, just give it a bit of a clean. Now, the question you'll have is, well, why is it melted? What happened to it? And that is a good question. General consensus has it that it's an issue with the actual gimbal that you insert, and that it overheats. There's a lot of people that talk about if it's left on the ground for too long, it's not getting the proper airflow that it needs through a lot of the components. And that can cause an issue that needs more cleaning. And when I say that can cause an issue, if it doesn't get the airflow, it overheats, especially if you're recording. And if you're doing something like 4K, well then, yeah, it's just going to get hotter, because the data transfer rate's right up there. Right, it's not too bad. Let's get the old toothbrush in there. And that's not looking too bad. Let's drop this guy in here one more time. Make sure that slot's really well cleaned out. There's not a stack of rubbish sitting in there. Yep, so there's just a bit of isopropyl alcohol in there that just needs to evaporate, and that's good to go. While I'm waiting for that, I'm just going to go wash my hands. I don't really like this sort of stuff sitting on my hands, so I'm going to go wash my hands. Yeah, it looks like all the black's off, and then we'll insert the new rubber block, and then we'll put it all back together. Righto, so let's get this rubber block in there, eh? It's pretty straightforward. It just needs to go in. Just needs to go in where it came out. So if I drop that in there, and make sure both sides are well seated through the holes. I feel like they've clipped in. Looks about right. You can see that they've actually come out and they're clipped around, so that's good. Still a bit of black stuff in there, just a little bit, but that'll be fine. Righto, made a bit of a mess here. Alright, let's get rid of all this dirty stuff. Yeah, that made a mess. You generally have to do a cleanup at this point just to get rid of any that's laying around, because if you don't, anytime you touch anything, you're going to get more on you and on drone, and it's just not going to be fun. Righto, let's get this guy back on. Goes on a lot easier than it comes off, that's for sure. Normally. Won't make a liar of me, we'll wait and see. Just going to grab a touch more rag, because I think I see a bit more floating around. Righto. Yep, that's good to go. Yeah, that one looks a lot better than the old one, that's for sure. Alrighty. So, insert the cable back through. While I had it out, I should have knocked all this glue off. I'll do that now. It's important that you glue the cables back in. They are clipped in. I never really thought it'd be an issue, but I've always done it. I have heard of one person who didn't, and they had an issue when they went to arm it, and it turns out that the cable had come off. Come on. Right, that's in. 2 screws. As I said, the majority of them are identical. But if you've ever worked on something like the DJI FPV, there's a myriad of different size and length screws in that one. Righto, so cable goes through the hole, this guy goes on his springs. I can look to drop this guy in, which will hold this end up, so when I flip it over it won't be an issue. So remember, it's just these back 2 at this point. The front 2 aren't done until you actually put it in. Okay, that's that. Let's get this guy back in. Get that 3rd one in the middle on, right at the top. Okay, so Back to the shell. Just be careful of your cables when you put it back in, because you don't want to break any of those. And just remember you've got those other cables sitting underneath as well, so just be careful of them. Oops, fell off that one. Okay. Get in there. There's 8 in this top plate. If you need a more detailed view of how to disassemble the body, there are a couple of really good videos that were done by a couple of YouTube channels where they do like a full strip down. That'll basically give you the majority of the strip down I've done. It just won't show you how to pull the gimbal apart and that sort of stuff. Righto, so 8 screws are back in. Time for the board. Now here's the fun bit. There's 2 ways you can do this. You can try and see if they were all seat, but often they won't. No. So what you then do is you pull these guys off. Be careful with them, they are fairly soft. You can actually tear them, and you put them through the back of the board. They are identical, so order doesn't really matter. Come on. So you're probably wondering, well, where can I get the little rubber block from? If you don't have one, you can't buy them, but one of the guys out of Germany has designed a 3D printable version. See how much easier that just sat down? He's done a 3D printed version. Just make sure all the cables are above the board, which you can print out of TPU. So TPU is a soft rubbery type filament. I've printed a few things out of it in the past, but yeah, it can be a bit tricky to work with. TPU, because it's so soft, especially TPU 95, which is what you need to use, you can't really get away with 98, it's too firm. What you will find is that you have to have a direct drive printer, because otherwise what tends to happen is the filament jams because it's so soft. Because it's only a small part and the print time's fairly short, you might get away with a Bowden style. I've tried to print things like rubber wheels for planes and things like that, and I have never been successful. And part of that, I'll get like half a tire. Part of that is the amount of time to print what I'm creating. That print time is quite long on a tire. You also need to slow the print speed down a fair bit. You can't get away with your normal PLA print speeds. So you need to give that a quick little clean. So I've got a nice clean surface to stick to. But anyway, I'll drop a link to that. He doesn't charge for it. It's free. I think it's, I don't remember, it's either on Google Drive or it might be on Thingiverse even. Come on, you. He doesn't want to go in a hurry. Move up to this guy. Come on. He just does not want to go in. There we go. Make sure they're square too. If they're not square, you can cause all sorts of problems. Especially this gimbal one. If this gimbal one isn't square, you can quite easily blow up the video processor. Or the other thing you can accidentally destroy is some of the SMD components underneath. Like some of those capacitors, and yeah, it's not worth investing the time in it from there to try and fix it. Okay, almost on the home run. Let's just install the top of the vibration mounts. You can't buy these. I'm sure you could fashion something up if you had an issue with one. The other option might be, once again, just print something out of TPU. It wouldn't be hard to design. Once again, it'd have to be 95, because 98 would be too stiff. I think even if it had, potentially only one, maybe two walls, that it's no infill, it'd still be, it just doesn't have the right kind of properties. Right, due to go on the board, then it's plug the motors in, landing gear on, top shell on, take it for a test flight. So some of the symptoms you might see is you might find that you get a lot of gimbal errors. That's often how it presents, or no camera found. Those issues can be dirty connectors. But one of the things I do, as soon as I get an error like that, first thing I'll do is I'll just look down the guts of it to see what condition that block is in. I always put the lid back on at this point, just so that I'm not laying it on the board. It's then just laying on the lid, even though, you know, I've got a silicone mat. I don't want to damage anything. Righto. Landing gear. Also be careful when you put the landing gear back on. You want to be very careful about how this cable lays, because it's actually a little bit longer than it needs. You want to make sure, because you can actually see that there's like a run. You want to make sure you don't accidentally pinch it on something like that. So let's plug these motors in. Get out of the way. They're fairly straightforward. Make sure they click in. Also make sure the cable is sitting in that groove through there. If it's not sitting in the groove properly, you might not be plugging them all the way in. They could be susceptible to coming out. You should hear a click like that though. It's normally a pretty good sign. See, that one's not quite in the tray properly. Righto. Let's get that out of the way. Come on, always one that plays up. There's a little bit of a tug on them to make sure they're good. Okay, that's good to go. So, landing gear orientates that way. You need to put the plug in. I'll do it upside down so you can see what's going on. So the clip sits on top, is facing upwards, which is basically into the body, and that just clips in like that. And then you just want to turn it over. Oh, I bet you I can't now. Should have gone the other way. Anyway, I'll do it the way I normally do it. It's just that you won't get to see it. Now it wants to be painful. Okay, that's in. So as I said, the cable's a little bit longer than it needs to be, so I will often just feed a bit back there so that when I come across, I know it's got a little bit of tension on it, so it's going to be straight through that area and it's not going to be getting caught on anything. Righto, landing gear. Righto, well that pretty much wraps up what I would call the worst job you'd have to do on the Karma. It wasn't too bad. I think that took about 40 minutes round trip, including, cleaning up that old disintegrated rubber. It's always fun the first couple of times, but yeah, after that it gets a bit monotonous. Now don't forget, got to glue those connectors back. I just use a bit of marine silicone or whatever silicone I've got kicking around. That's normally suitable, and that just makes sure that the connectors actually don't pop open on a heavy landing or whatever. But anyway, that's it in a nutshell. That one's now good to go. You'll be able to see that you might be able to see, light's not awesome. You'll be able to see that that one looks much better than the previous one looked. It's nice and clean. I got rid of all that black stuff. It's also important to note, check the gimbal as well. This isn't the gimbal out of the unit, but there'll normally be black stuff along these two edges. You want to make sure you clean that off as well, because otherwise you'll get it on your hands every time you go to take it out. Plus you'll also be putting it back down the throat of the one that you just cleaned. So yeah, worth noting, clean that as well. This is the area that's believed to get hot that causes it, but basically what that rubber's doing is it's just helping locate the gimbal inside the passage. Anyway, hope that helps, and yeah, have a good one.